And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we battle, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I'll tell you now. Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica posse?
World. Now the rule seems coming to an end, but down here, just a chink in the armor is enough to lose a friend. Some of the old generals have retired and gone, and the runs don't come as they did before. But when the two says go, don't you know the desert is come? We've lost the battle, but yet we will win the war. As long as we rally round the West Indies, one forever. Rally round the West Indies, never say never. Pretty soon the runs are gonna flow again like water, bringing so much joy to each and every son and daughter. So we gonna rise again like a raging fire. As the sun shines, you know we gon' take it higher. We gotta rally round the West Indies, one forever, yes. Rally round the West Indies, stoke up the fire. Way down under, a warrior falls. Michael holding falls in the heat of the battle. Michael should have left long time. I heard an angry brother shout, Caribbean man, that is the root of our trouble. Oh, in these tiny theaters of conflict and confusion, better known as the Isles of the West Indies. We already know who brought us here and who created this confusion. So I'm begging my people, please. Oh, we got to rally from the West Indies, now and forever. Yeah. Rally from the West Indies, stoke up the fire. Pretty soon the runs are gonna flow again like water, bringing so much joy to each and every son and daughter. lost in the rubble in a divided world that don't need islands no more. Are we doomed forever to be at somebody's mercy? Little keys can open up mighty doors. Rally, rally from the West Indies, one forever. Yeah. Rally, rally from the West Indies, never say never. No, pretty soon the runs are gonna flow again like water, bringing so much joy to each and every son. Then we gonna rise again like a raging fire. As the sun shines, you know we gonna take it. What we got to what? Rally, rally round the West Indies, now and forever. We got to rally, rally round the West Indies.
Rally round the West Indies. Good evening. The voice there of royalty, Caribbean royalty, David Michael Rudder, King David Michael Rudder, who has given us so many songs, so many cricket songs. Our theme song, comes from David Rudder. Our theme song comes from David Rudder, and of course, the anthem of West Indies cricket, because remember we are several countries playing under one flag, one nation, and so they had to come up with a national anthem, and they used David Rudder's Rally Round the West Indies 1988 song, Calypso, Rally Round the West Indies. Good evening to all of you on a Sunday night, Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon. Not quite morning yet in Europe, but we're getting there. Welcome to our new edition, our new Politics 101 edition on a Sunday night. West Indies Cricket 101. West Indies Cricket 101. And as David Rudder says there in that song, cricket is intertwined with life in the West Indies, with politics, with economics, with culture, with history. And so therefore, in keeping with our spirit here on this program, we are looking at cricket not just as a game, but as David Rudder said, this thing goes beyond the boundary. Using the thesis of our own CLR James, Beyond the Boundary, which is hailed as the greatest cricket book that was ever written. And this is not we West Indians who are saying so, it's the white people also said so, the English people, the Carduses and the James Arlots and others who are saying this. This book, Beyond the Boundary by Cyril Lionel Robert James, it's also rated as one of the top sociology books that come out of the Caribbean, because it's really a book about Caribbean sociology, using cricket as the lens through which CLR James, one of the great intellects that have come out of our region. In fact, he is rated as, along with W.B. Du Bois, as the two great black intellects of the 20th century. James was, oh my goodness, a historian, a political scientist, a sociologist. He dealt with cricket, he dealt with cinema, he dealt with culture, just the quintessential Caribbean person, CLR James. And whenever we talk about cricket, we have to talk about this book, Beyond the Boundary, which I encountered when I was a schoolboy in the early 1970s was pointed to it by my English teacher, Paul King, who pointed a couple of us who were interested in cricket to read this book that was published in 1965. And when I read this book, didn't quite get everything. You couldn't as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. But I got enough to say to me that cricket was more than just a sport. And ever since that day, I have weaved cricket analysis into my political analysis and other analysis about our Caribbean. Welcome to Politics 101. I see some regulars here. Rhonda, Paula, yes, Paula, I remember your uncle. Yes, I remember your uncle Terry Drayton would come to visit every year, and then he and others would go off to Antigua. Every year go off to Antigua to watch cricket in those days when we had a test series in the Caribbean every year, and Antigua was the newest venue, the Antigua Recreation. I'm very glad that you send the link to him, your Uncle Terry. And of course, say hello to your mom and others. To me, I don't get to see them these days since I understand everybody is moved now to Atlanta. Everybody has moved to Atlanta, and I don't get to see your mom and to enjoy, go to the restaurant to enjoy her cooking and her hospitality and so forth. But yes, I remember your Uncle Terry. Good evening to Floretta, Karen Black. Karen, thanks so much for your continued support to Politics 101 and Georgetown, Guyana, morning time. I see Samuel Mingo. Samuel, also thank you for your continued support. Sharon Griffith, my cousin, Thomas Robertson, and I have to say cousin because your family, part of my cousin here in Arizona, and certainly you are part. And good evening to you. Say hello to your wonderful wife. I'm sure she's on. I don't see the name, but I'm sure she's on. Say hello to her, and of course the kids and your sisters and your mom, everyone there in Atlanta, Georgia. Good evening to all of you. Asim Shakur, Rashley Ford. Good evening to Clinton. Yes. Good evening, Denise Booker. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Rastaman, Hail the Man. Welcome to Politics 101, our cricket edition of Politics 101, which is West Indies Cricket 101. Please share the link so that everybody will know that it's a Sunday night and we're on at 6 o'clock rather than our normal 7 o'clock. Emily Durant, a real trooper. Emily, looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks when I come down to Guyana to do my long stint. And I'm looking forward to see all of you all. Harriet, good evening. Good evening to all of you. I see my cousin Sherry Robe from the East Bank. Good to see you, Sherry. Very good to see you. One of our earliest supporters. And looking forward, Sherry, to coming on the East Bank and spending some time, and also coming for one of those garden parties that I know you hold, and to enjoy some nice food and nice company and so forth. Sherry Robe, one of our troopers, one of my extended family. Say hello to Auntie Brenda for me. I haven't seen her in a bit, but I'm coming through. I'm coming through shortly. Margaret Nelson, Kwame and Kofi. It's good when you see these names, Kwame and Kofi. People could have African names and and nobody laughs at them and so forth. Very, very good. Thanks to my own mentor, A.U.C. Kwayano, who was a trailblazer in terms of the cultural revolution, in which Carol Bacchus, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, Otis Sanko, Linda Sanko Mingo is watching. Oh God, Linda Sanko. Oh my God, Lord. Yes, welcome. Welcome to Politics 101. We have here Pamela Gorick. Yes, welcome. Welcome to all of you. Cheryl Panchan. Welcome. Ingrid King, welcome. I suppose it's Ingrid King, might be coming from Toronto, Canada area. Michael Richardson, good evening to all of you. We're going to be talking cricket tonight. And in the old days, when you see a lot of women on, you will say, Rhonda Spencer, good evening. You will say, well, boy, cricket is a man's story. But if you go into the cricket grounds today, especially when there's a 2020 cricket, you see women outnumber men. And it's not just older women, but younger women. I'm so proud of how the game has emerged in our society. Good evening to you. And good evening to our guest who was on very early, Dr. Vincent Adams. Dr. Vincent Adams is not just a cricket analyst, but is a cricketer. He played for Guyana. And he played for Guyana not at a down time. He played for Guyana when, my God, it was difficult to get into a Guyana team. When you looked at Barbados team in those days, in the 1960s and the 1970s, and you look at the Guyana team, you look at Trinidad, you look at Jamaica, it was difficult to get into those teams. So when you played in a team like that, it means that you had to be really good to get into that team. I remember getting together early as a small boy and catching the tail end of those great encounters between Barbados and Jamaica. It was like a test match. It was like a test match when Barbados and Jamaica and Guyana played at border. My brother, good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Hines. How are you doing? And welcome to our great listeners out there. You notice I wear my white shirt today.
Yes. I get as white as I could get to. Yes. In your days, they call it the white flannels.
That's right, white flannels. That's exactly correct. But you never had white flannels with your green cap, which is the Guyana color. You never used to have a helmet.
No helmet. I remember helmet. I think it was the first time I saw helmet was an Australian named Rick McCusker. I remember wearing a helmet sometime in the late 1980s, late 1970s, because McCusker was in that team that beat us up bad in 1975-76. But by the end of the decade, the Australians were wearing helmets. And I remember Rick McCusker, one of the first persons to have worn a helmet. Go ahead.
But Dr. Hines, and I tell my cricket friends, it's interesting, and I've not done this statistic to give you some numbers, but there is no question that more batsmen got hit in their heads wearing a helmet than when you never used to wear a helmet. And the reason is, and I look at how these current players, what they do not keep their eyes on the ball. Right. Nowadays, as soon as a bowler hits it down, they duck and their eyes are in looking at the wicket. In our time, most of us never used to duck. We used to pull aside or let it pass, but West Indians would be hooking. So it's kind of an irony that after helmets, people get hit in their head more often because again I think it's a false sense of security, so they lose that technique of keeping your eyes on the ball at all times. As soon as a quick does this, if you notice, a lot of them, what they do, they duck, but their head is pointing to the ground instead of looking at the ball. And that's what we had to do. And, you know, like fast bowlers and stuff never used to really scare us because, you either pull while the ball pass if you can hook, or West Indians, like I said, we just couldn't help ourselves hooking.
Couldn't help ourselves hooking. And talking about hooking, I remember Vivian Richards, who played up until 1991 when he retired, never wore a helmet. And by 1991, helmets had become a thing in the game. Richards never wore a helmet. I remember it was Len Pascoe hit him in the head. He was hooking, not hit him ducking. He missed the ball hooking in 1981. Pascoe hit him on the head. And, Olden and others said, my goodness, the way this thing is going, we'll have to go and bring Viv off the ground, because the Australians in those days was Lilly, Thompson, Pascoe, and those guys. And the next ball, Pascoe bowled to Richards after hitting him in the head. He hit it out of the ground, and the rest is history. They stopped bouncing Viv.
Yeah.
But in your time, who would you rate as, and your time they had great hookers, who would you rate as the greatest hooker that you played with and against?
There's no question, not even who I played with nor against. Throughout the entire world, there was nobody who was just I used to call him a genius, as Rohan Babulal Kanai. None. I mean, I've seen this guy, and it's just as if he knows. You know, I see this guy, and you mentioned Barbados and Guyana. In a game in Barbados, and I wasn't playing at that time. I was a little bit listening to the radio. But Wes Hall and Charlie Griffith in their prime on that Barbados wicket. And the Barbados wicket used to be like concrete in those days. It's not like now, it's slow. And I mean, when you wear your pegs with your boots, used to be sliding on the first day, So it used to be hard and shiny. And Charlie Griffith and Wes Hall carried away the first three Guyana batsmen. Three for one, or three, whatever it is. And I heard when Rohan was passing, I think it might have been Harnanan or somebody, he was passing, going at number 3. So he said, you watch me and them here today. And Rohan went in and put a beating on Charlie Griffith. It was 3 wickets down, including Bassett Butcher. Bassett come and get a duck, I think, to Griffith, or one of them, LBW. And Rohan put a licking on Charlie Griffith and Wes Hall. I think that was one of the greatest innings in terms of bumpers, hooking, and I mean, just a massacre. At the other end was Joe Solomon, who made 60-something. And Joe was taking lashes all over his body, but that was how Joe used to bat. Joe held up one end, and Rohan put a licking on those guys. But the guy was just, to me, you talk about the genius of a batsman. Of course, there's the great Sir Garfield Sobers, but Sobers used to make more runs than him because, Sobers was more, I don't want to say mentally stable, but Rohan was more cavalier. Sobey would be more cautious and play a ball to its merit. But Rohan used to take more chances, and a lot of the shots, he was the only kind of person who used to play and invent a lot of shots that became normal to a lot of folks. So he was before his time. Probably that I've never seen another batsman like him, especially when it comes to handling fast bowling.
Yeah. And I these days, these chaps who analyze cricket, they analyze cricket based on statistics. But for me, the 5 greatest West Indian batsmen: George Headley, who I never saw.
Yep.
I never saw Headley. I don't think I may have seen 1 or 2 old clips of Headley. But I would say Headley, Sobers, Everton Weeks, Vivian Richards, and Rohan Kanai are my 5 greatest West Indian batsmen. I think Kanai, agree with you. I think Kanai was simply a genius. I grew up hearing the big men in the village say, "Oh, Jesus Christ, the man lie down and knock ball out of the ground, the falling hook shot." And you as young boys, you're mesmerized,
Yeah.
And indeed, He played the falling hook shot. CLR James said, can I represent the daring of West Indian cricket? Later on, they would call Chanderpaul the tiger. But I really think the real tiger of West Indies cricket, Rohan Babulal Kanai. And, I was a small boy when Prior Jonas and Fred Wills used to give little commentaries on a Sunday night like this on the radio. And, Fred Wills, every Sunday night like this before Kanai became captain, he said, and the next West Indies captain shall be none other than Rohan Babulal Kanai. Next morning you're going to school, Rohan Babulal Kanai, right? Really, really amazing. And the thing is that we in Guyana, we know we have our racial problems or ethnic problems. And I want you to speak on this. I want to, because I think it's a very important issue. We have our racial problems and our ethnic problems. It's there in our politics, in our economics, in our everyday lives. But somehow or the other, even somebody who's literate in race like myself, right? When I talk about Kanai or Kalicharan or Chanda Paul or Sonny Ramadin, race doesn't enter my consciousness. I don't necessarily agree with this thesis of color blindness. But if color blindness is a reality, I think it comes to us West Indians in this game of cricket. Rohan Kanai is simply, to me, a genius. And when I try to picture Kanai, I know he's an Indian man, but it doesn't enter my consciousness. When I talk about Chetty Jagan, Indianness come to my consciousness right away, And I remember even when there was Sash Prasad and Sami Bash, two Indian men in the 1970s who were singing soul. And I remember you said, buy them Indian banner singing soul. So even at that point, Indianness enter your consciousness. But I can never remember putting Indian before Kanai name or Kalicharan name. Help me here.
Well, the thing in terms of from a fan's standpoint, remember cricket is like a religion in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And it was even more so when it was only cricket. You remember, now people are exposed to basketball, even American football, because you've got television and everything else. We were not exposed to anything else but cricket. So cricket became like a religion. So these people were like gods to us, like Jesus Christ, like a hero such as Rohan. So, and you never associate race with those type of iconic figures. No, and that was when you're on the field. And even on the field, when we play as a team, we're blind, completely blind to that sort of thing. However, off the field, there's still, even with, I remember even in my time, and it probably used to even happen before my time, you go to trials and and it's no secret that certain players would drop out of people's catches so that the bowlers wouldn't get a wicket, or they drop a catch for a batsman that they want. If you come from Babis, and the division used to be, like the Babis and the Demerara, of course, the Demerara cricketers would normally be the black players, and then the Babis, you have the Indian crew. And so you're trying to help out certain people to get into the team. And then on the selection of the team, the same thing used to happen with, I had a personal experience, but, but the same exact thing used to happen in the selection of the team. But when you get on the field, if there's one thing that I think politics should learn, and a lot of politicians will refer to cricket, Guyanese politicians, when you get on the cricket field, all you want to do is win. It doesn't matter when you're black, white, black or Indian, or any other race that plays for Guyana, or double like myself, and others. You want to win. You don't care if Alvin is gonna make 100 for us to win. We're gonna be rooting for him, because winning was something that you could not imagine. You could not imagine what it means to to win a cricket match. And the other thing, at least when I went on tour, and I think whether it's natural or people are just conscious that we need to do it this way. I know when I look back from where I sit now, and all the racial connotations, etc., between the blacks and Indians, the blacks used to room by themselves, and the Indians used to room by themselves. And as a matter of fact, I remember in 1969 when I played in my first Shell Shield tournament, we had three people to a room. And now when I look back, but it never occurred to me, there were 3 Douglas people on that team.
Oh, tell me.
And the 3 of us roomed. But now I'm looking back, it was myself, Cornelius, you remember that?
Lloyd Cornelius, like spinner.
That's right. He's Douglas. I think from the American side, and Reds Murray.
Reds Murray, the keeper. Yes.
That's right.
Yes,
so
in those days, right.
But now you look back, it wasn't. In another room, it was Alvin, Kalicharan, I think Sunarain, and I think Ramnares or Bechan or what. But
Isaac Sunarain.
Right. So when you look, you see how, it just as if it was part of our subconscious.
Yes.
That, on the field, it didn't make a difference. But as soon as you cross that line, you get over the boundary. Beyond the boundary.
This is what James' book is really about. It's about how cricket reflected the society, the racial and ethnic tensions in the society. Yet when the cricketers go on that field, the racial consciousness subsides. But it's there, as you were saying. We would never know. The 3 Douglas men room together, and the Indians would room together, and the blacks would room. We would never know that, because when you are out on the field, the racial consciousness subsides for that moment.
That's
really correct. Interesting. 1969, you are making your debut for Guyana. Now, 69 is an interesting time. 69 itself is an interesting year. Let me give some historical background here.
Right.
68, you had the Rodney riots in Jamaica. Walter Rodney is banned from going into Jamaica for wanting to teach African history. They don't want him to teach African history. They ban him from Jamaica, October 1968. It begins the Black Power movement in the Caribbean, all right? 1969 comes to an end, brings to an end 18 glorious years of Jamaican and Caribbean music, because in or about 1967 or so, all right, the Jamaicans slowed down. In those days, you remember remember the ska music.
Yeah.
All right. And
Jamaican ska.
Right. And the Jamaicans toned down the ska. The ska was fast beat, you remember? They toned it down. The music got slow. The bass comes into play. The lyrics, ska was mostly instrumental than lyrics. They bring lyrics into it, into what you as a young man know as rock steady.
Yeah.
And rocksteady would last from 1967 to about 1969, 18 months. And from 1969, what we know today as reggae, that's when it started. Because another name that you would be familiar with, Toots and the Maytals.
Oh, absolutely. Toots and the Maytals. Do we ever have, you remember we had the dance for that, the hop and come.
That's right. That's right.
For the rocksteady. The
rock steady. You rock steady. You rock steady. You rock steady. So 1969, Rocksteady comes to an end. And what we now know is reggae, because at a show, Toots just said raga, 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 raga.
Yeah, yeah.
Reggae. That's where the word comes from. So you all are playing,
I
right?
didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
So you are stepping out onto that field in 1969 to represent Guyana at an interesting moment in Caribbean history. All right, Guyanese history. I don't think there was any shell shield in 1968. You can correct me. I know there was 1967.
I can't remember.
For some reason, they missed 1968, and I think it has something to do with the foreman in the region. But 1969, Vincent Adams, Alvin Calitran, I think Leonard Bachan was there, Isaac Sut. I didn't know Isaac Sunarain was there.
Bachan, yeah.
Right.
Sunarain too, Sunarain.
Sunarain, because
Bachan played at home. Bachan played at home. When we came back, Bachan played at home, and Sui was dropped for that game. So Bachan and I opened when we came back.
And I think Joe Solomon captained that team.
Joe Solomon was captain.
Joe Solomon captained that team. Right.
Yep.
So here it is. You are stepping out onto that field. And one of the things I learned in my study of sports and society is that the sportsman, the sportswoman, for the most part, he or she is not conscious that you're making history, because you are playing a game and you are going out there and the crowd is screaming because the crowd is projecting onto you something that because you're facing a ball coming at 90 miles per hour and more, you are thinking they are protecting yourself and your wicket. But the crowd is seeing you as making history for them. So I am saying to you, Vincent Adams, when you were going out there in 1969, you were in the middle of the Rodney riots in 68, and in 1970, the February Black Power Revolution in Trinidad, right? All right? So the Caribbean is informant, all right? Independence had come 62 to Trinidad and Jamaica, 66 to Guyana and Barbados. And people realized we had gotten independence, our flag, our national anthem. But boy, we still don't have empowerment. There's still Indian and black boys who are coming from the country, in your case, Linden, to come down to town, and you're not guaranteed selection on the team.
That's
because of your color.
Yep.
And so when you walked out there, I think you opened with Fredo.
Yeah, well, no, I opened with Sunarain the fourth.
With Sunarain, right? Yeah. And Sunarain is coming from the quarantine.
Yes.
You are coming from Linden.
Yeah.
Half Indian, half black man from Linden, an Indian man from quarantine, at a time when the Black Powerists are saying black people and Indian people can't work in banks. You can't do certain jobs. And you all are walking out at that time in our history. Tell us your own feelings as a young man in 1969, walking out there to represent Guyana. Go back. It's what, 69 and 55 years ago. But a cricketer's mind is still sharp. I'm sure you remember that first ball that you face to this day. Talk us through your emotions.
It was just unbelievable. Of course, I came off of an outstanding in the youth tournaments in 68. Myself and Lawrence Rowe were the two outstanding batsmen it was played in Barbados. Alvin, the first youth tournament was held in 1966, and Alvin Rowe did not play there. Alvin played with me in the Ghana team. But then in 67, Alvin made us 90-something against the Islands, and he got picked one game in the Ghana Shell Shield right after that. And so in 69, in 68, when the youth, that was the under 21, and that's a long story, but that under 21 team. when the under 20, it was an under 21 tournament in 1960. The 66 tournament was a school boys, as long as you go to school. There wasn't any 67. In 68, and that was when Alvin played in 67 for Guyana. They gave him one game because he did well in the tournament in 66. So in 68 now, the tournament in Barbados was an under 21 team, a tournament. But Guyana, Clyde Walcott said, hey, when you're 21 years, you should be playing for the West Indies. So Guyana, even though it was an under 21 tournament, Guyana played an under 19 team against the other teams. Trinidad and Jamaica and Barbados and everybody had an under 21, young set of young men. We had an under 19, and we still won the tournament with our under 19 team in Barbados. So I came out as an outstanding player, and so was Lawrence Rowe. So both Lawrence Rowe and I made our debut in 1969 when he played for Jamaica, and I played for Guyana. But the feelings, and I think in my case, and especially how Guyana was situated, Linden, remember that Linden was kind of isolated from the rest of the country. Our connection was by RH Car. So I had no connection to Georgetown except by RH Car. And I was a little boy then. My parents would never send me by myself on that boat because it used to travel by night and stuff like that. So when Bassett Butcher came up, he was playing in the team, so I got an opportunity to play in a Mackenzie team. But I was representing Linden. I was the first person from that entire community, and it was you remember Linden was we were the ones who all the revenues for the country, most of it came out of bauxite, and so Linden was the place. So everybody knew about Linden except that we were not connected by road at the time. So here I am representing Linden. So that all of these, Linden, I am the person, the entire Linden, everybody wants me to do well. So is that pressure? And it's kind of interesting though, and if cricketers are really honest, they're going to tell you, especially when you're in the situation that I was in. I was happy that I was playing abroad rather than making my debut in Guyana. A lot of people believe, intuitively, well, you should be glad to be playing. No, because you prefer to play abroad because you're scared that people are going to boo you if you fail and disappoint them.
Vince, you know who's in this audience? Read on the screen.
Hold on.
Oh, no, let me read it for you because I don't want to interfere with that thing.
Oh, this is
Bama. Stephen Bamfield.
I got
who, in my estimation, was as good a keeper as Paidana. And remember, we had Lonsdale Skinner on, and he probably on here tonight, who swear that he was a better keeper than Paidana. But here we are in the 1970s with Bamfield, Paidana, Lonsdale Skinner. But Pai gets the nod after Reds Murray bows out, right?
Right.
And Bamfield also opened the batting.
Oh,
you remember playing for GCC? I think he played for GCC.
And he played for. Then he came over to DC after that. But no, I think he mentioned it right on this chat. Bam and I think we were playing again. It was 1972 after my accident. As a matter of fact, that was my first big game when I came back. Right.
Uh-huh.
This big intercounty game where Demrar used to beat Bobis every year. So this year, Bobis decided that they're not going to beat us, that we are not going to beat them. They brought in all of their stars. Fedo was captain, Alvin Culture. Every member of that Bobis team had played for Guyana except me, for Hiles and maybe one more, Paidano. I mean, it was a star-studded. Borlin Saeed, Rex Ramnarez.
Borlin Saeed, yes.
Cameron. I mean, the entire team. So they decided they're going to beat us up. So Lance was our captain. And Stephen was supposed to open with me, and you know Stephen now.
Stephen Kumash. Yaz getting injured.
So Stephen said he couldn't. So they put Bama to open with me.
Ah.
So me and Bama, I will never forget that front page, and I'm still asking to see if somebody can find it. I remember me and Bama when we walked out, and the next day's newspaper, because the top was put on 140 something. We batted first, 140 something, and Bama got out for I think 85, whatever it is, and then the next day they had, you know, of course I am tall and Bama is short. They said we look like Mutton Jeff. I think that was the headline of these papers. But anyway, went on to I made 120 something, and in the county game, and we won the game, and I've never seen such, and Bama can tell because he was a wicket keeper, the most devastating piece of spin bowling from both ends I've ever seen in my time playing on a team was Rex Collymore at one end and Lance Gibbs at the other end.
Oh, wow.
Just tied up that star-studded Berbice team of Kalitran, Bechan, Munilal, Etwaru. Just handcuffed them, and we won the game outright. I think Lance and Kali picked up all of the wickets. I think we had Blair and our you know, those type of, but Lance and Collymore just handcuffed that team, and we won it outright. Yeah. Say nice
hearing from you, Stephen. And I remember that 1987, long afterwards, you got your chance towards the end of the 1980s, and we won then. I think Roger Harper, captain, but I know at that time, Carl Hooper had come in, because I remember Carl Hooper in that 1987. Sudesh Daniram, I think, played there, Bama, and so on. So you were like the senior statesman in that team in 1987 when we won. But I've been following Bamfield since in the early 1970s, and he finally got a chance. I think Paidana might have migrated by then. And
let me tell you something about Bama too that a lot of people don't realize. Of course, Bama was one of those GCC boys. When they catch you at GCC, they kill you because they get dead. And when you catch them outside of DCC, like a DCC and those places, was war, because you bump us from start to finish. But Bama was the only batsman who could, go outside of GCC and beat bowling. Here, Bama was a ball beater.
Because he could have hooked.
Bama never used to mess around. He used to beat bowling terribly. So no, Bama was an exceptional wicket keeper and batsman, no question about it.
Yes,
he probably came in the wrong time.
I always ask about you, Bama. I think one of your cousins is my friend there in Arizona, Bruce Bamfield. Bruce Lennox Bamfield, and I think you tell me you're somewhere in England and so on. But I always ask about you. The thing is that, sometimes our region could be so cruel, because ex-cricketers, once they stop playing and they're not involved in the administration of the game or thing, you don't hear about them anymore. And I always say, where Bamfield, because I remember in 1987, in that winning team, but by then Bamfield would have been 36, 37, because I think he born like 1950 or something like that, right? And I always ask where Bamfield is, and I think because your cousin said you're somewhere in England, wherever you are, it's nice that you are you're on the program. Basil Butcher was very instrumental in Linden cricket, yes, Bamfield, right? Basil Butcher Jr. Dr. Hines, you have an interesting all-time top 5 years. Yes, Basil, young Basil, I watched you this morning on the West Indies Cricket Forum, and I got to get you on here because I disagree with you vehemently on Etmire. I disagree with you, Basil, but the son, Basil Butcher's son, on here, and I looked at a program this morning with himself, and they were talking about the West Indies team, and Basil didn't have Etmire in his team, and the moderator was saying to Basil, "You best don't go back to Guyana."
No, Hey, that's one thing about Basil. Hey, and Basil is my like my brother because his father was like my second father. So Basil, but and as a matter of fact, it was only today I was talking to a friend and I told her that I'm gonna be on Dr. Hines show. And as a matter of fact, she was at one time the captain of the Patricia Whitaker. She was at one time the captain of the women's West Indies team.
Yes.
And now she's a lawyer and stuff. So she was asking me about your program because I'm sure she's probably tuned into. She said, "Oh, no, he needs to have Basil on." I said, "Absolutely." I said, "The first thing I'm going to tell him that the next program has to be Basil Butcher Jr." And let me tell you something about Basil. There's nobody who has a photographic memory. You talk about stats, Dr. Hines, and I challenge anybody to show me anybody in the whole world who knows stats, and it's not just raw stats on paper. Basil will tell you what team they make it against, and you if you ask him a question, I don't know, within seconds you get an answer for any player in the world. But he's you have to have him on very soon.
Yes. You have his digits?
Yes, I've got
all
it.
Right, pass it on to me.
Here's the part.
Huh?
If you want to cause a riot, don't bring up Hetty's name with Basil Butcher. Okay.
he was scared in on Hetmeyer this morning, and I'm an Hetmeyer man, right? And so on. Basil, I'm gonna get your digits from Dr. Adams, and we'll certainly have your. Basil and I used to jostle on the thing years ago, but 20 years ago, they had a thing called CaribbeanCricket.com. This boy, he was a journalist in Guyana, a friend of mine, used to run it. And in those days, you had a few fora to really talk about cricket. And Basil and I used to jostle there because, of course, Basil is coming from a family. His father played cricket, and he is it. I am coming as the professor, the analytical aspect of cricket, and sometimes the two don't come together. Yeah. Basil looks at cricket as this technical game and so on, and I am coming from the analytics side, and so
he knows the game.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But I'm vexed with you this morning.
Anyhow. Well, if Basil is nice, I better warn you. Then don't bring up Hetty name because I've got a lot of the same views as Basil and Hetty.
Talking about, welcome to West Indies Cricket 101. Those of you are joining us, I see some wonderful names. Yes, they're telling me here that Bamfield is in Florida. So he's not too far from you there, Vince.
I thought he was in Canada.
Yeah, I heard he was in England, but somebody who apparently is in the know is saying Stephen Bamfield lives in Florida. And
I didn't know that. I thought he was in. He must have moved because I know he was in Florida at one time.
Hey, Connie Alstrom. Good night, Michael Daniram. Basil, yes, Basil said I have an interesting all-time top West Indies batters. Yeah. Vince, I feel.
Here, hold on. Basil and I have had this argument, okay? And your all-time five, of course, I do not have Viv Richards there. So, and I know a lot of people are going to kill me. But I have Everton the Corsi Weeks. Basil, and as soon as I mentioned Everton, he said the first thing he said, he could only make runs against India. And so those are the kinds. Basil gets down, he peels back that onion and comes up with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I follow Basil all the time. He's on that program there, West Indies Cricket Forum, and I follow him all the time. Edward Brooms, good night. Yes, memories. Tony Hack, welcome. Franklin Boston, welcome. So Aileen Griffith Norton, is only. Aileen is saying, I umpire cricket. No, we got to get this on. Aileen is saying, I umpire cricket while Mr. Bamfield was in his latter days playing in Guyana and the USA. All right. So this person, yes, is saying that the umpire when he was playing there. I see my countryman, John Phillips. John Phillips was a fast bowler in my time. You know, the one time I made it up to playing for my village was in 1987. Before that, I was a commentator because I couldn't make a village team. So I used to go around with the team commentating. And I don't know what happened in 1987. I don't know if they water me drink or what. But there was John will remember, I think at third class competition on the East Coast. And Barlisle, who I think you may have played with.
Yeah.
Right. Barlisle was running that tournament, and Buxton played, and we won that tournament. And I was the highest scorer for Buxton. John was one of the fast bowlers. I remember when we got to play Mike, a little by the pats can barely go on the foot, right? We played Mike, you go know, you know. And that by Giwi Boxic. He would have been about 13 years old. Years later, Pudding from Canada called me. He said, Twilly, you remember that I was beat away, get away Boxic in Mike? I said, yes, a little Indian boy. He said, a change of ball. So I thought, because the night before, all we did Tipperary all sporting. I don't think John used to sport them time. John had your friend. So he used to go to sport. But me putting all we did sporting at Tipperary all till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and 10 o'clock we gotta go. So when that sun hit you with the liquor in your system, John, it's nice. It's nice to hear from you. John became an actor, and he became a journalist and so on. But John was quick. John reminds me of a chap you may have played with, Newton Dow.
Yep. I used to love Newton Dow bowling, man. I clap on 99 on him and 69 in Trinidad. He carried away, I think, a couple of wickets already or something, and he coming for tea or something, and then so when I start hurrying you up, so we come in, and Matthews, we in them days we used to say, who's ignores, and most of them fast bowlers, you don't go near the fast bowlers. So he come in, and he might be tell Matthews something. Matthews was over fast, and Matthews said, "Don't worry me. Deal with the one you got to deal with it."
Mato was quite a sensation when he walked into any West Indies team at any other time. He went on later on, to become a leg spinner. Steve is setting the record straight. He's saying everything Vincent said is so true. I'm in Florida after moving from New Jersey. Fred Wills was very disappointed when I left the DCC. Yes, somebody was saying he's from DCC, but as a young person, I paid no attention to the politics of the GCC, which was known as the Portuguese Club. Only people of a certain standard, along with myself and a few other people of color. I remember Lex Barker. Yes, Lex Barker was one of the first black players, but he was the groundsman for us. Wow, interesting. I never knew Lex Barker was a groundsman. I remember him playing because this GCC in those days was a powerhouse. One of my cousin Orin Gordon, who was once the mayor in Linden there, and he became the REO, was a tearaway fast bowler, and he played for GCC. And so you were familiar because sometimes you would go there and see him. Oh, it's so nice. It's so nice to Patricia Ramsaram. Good evening, my dear. It's so nice. Now let's talk about this West Indies team that has been picked. It's a long time since there was so much interest in the composition of a team. I think as West Indians, like cricket fans all over the world, we don't like selectors, all right? Because selectors never give you the team. you want, right? And so there was a lot of controversy over the team. And I think the controversy surrounded, yes, Etmire, and Shamar Joseph. And Etmire was not so much, nobody doubts his class. For me, he's the best West Indian batsman, period, in the West Indies right now, right? But I think he got his supporters vexed. I remember Carl Hooper used to get his supporters vexed, right? But I think Etmire gone past. At least Carl was committed to West Indies cricket. You don't get the sense that Hetty is committed. You don't get the sense that Hetty understands the moment in which he is playing and the product that is the product of a particular moment in our West Indies. You get the sense that, as we said, by head ring on wrong, all right? And I think a lot of people, including his fans, really get so mad at him that I think a lot of them said he should not be in the team. With Joseph, it was whether he could play 2020, right? And so forth. Now, you have seen the team there. First of all, are you satisfied with the team? And then we are going to come to Etmire and Joseph, and we're going to talk about Roston Chase, because for me, he's also there's some controversy for me as to whether he should be in the squad at all. But are you satisfied with the squad?
Yes, I'm not fully satisfied. Like I said, my number one will not have gripe, but I would not have picked Hetmire, obviously. And you see, and Basil and those folks would tell you, I start with attitude. And just to repeat some of the things that you said there, Hetty has shown that he's one of the most, let's start out with, he's one of the most talented batsmen that has ever come out of the West Indies. Except that he's not lived up to that. And it's mostly because of his attitude when success came. And that's, a lot of us do that. When success comes along, we don't know how to handle it. And we ended up, and that's this guy, nobody, and I always say, nobody is bigger than a team. And when I was captain of the DCC, I can tell you, I put down a lot of stars, including Mato. And Mato does always talk about this. I told him to shop to start the game at, the game starts at 12. I said, we have to be there by 10:30. Matthew just come off of a, and I mean, I'm not, but if he's listening, he's probably laughing. I looked through the window and I saw Mato taking his time, 10:30 past, taking his time walk. He's not even running. I know what I did. I go and I handed the team to the umpire. And when we were walking out to go field, Mato is taking a new ball going down the steps. And I told him, I said, you're 12th man today. And he just came off as a star in the Shell Shield games abroad from Barbados or something. And he comes to DCC and he was dropped. You talk about humiliation, but he always remembers that experience and thanked me for it. So what I'm getting at is that Hetmire believes that he's bigger than West Indies cricket. And when we continue to play him, he did not go on 2 tours and he missed flights here or there. And hell, if I'm playing for the West Indies, I'll be up at the airport the night before, as a matter of fact. But so it's all about his attitude towards West Indies cricket. He believes he's bigger. And just for that reason, and on top of that, he has not shown any performance here recently in the IPL or any place else. I don't understand, why is he there? And then they say, well, we playing him as, as a finisher. I don't know where this finisher stuff comes up, because to me, you need your best batsmen to come in early, and especially those who can finish. You finish better if you get as many overs as possible. So when you get down to the finish, like Puran is going to come early, and the big bats are going to come early. When you get down to the 16th over or so, you are in a better position to finish rather than bringing in a Hetmire who's now turned into a finisher, where at one time he was probably ranked as a world-class batsman, even among the best in the West Indies. I know you tell me you're picking this man as a finisher to come and play 2 or 3 overs, and he's not I still don't see that he's the fittest person to have on the field. So I've got a problem with that from those different perspective. And I would not have picked him in my team now. There are players such as Holder, which was kind of iffy, but I could understand why he would be there. Of course, Johnson Charles is on this team and he's doing well in against Nepal. So I can see why he would have. And of course, the other one is Roston Chase. The other thing that I think that they did, that the selectors did, they went heavy on the experience. And that's okay, as long as these guys can make the team. I was glad. I was worried that they were going to leave out Russell, because there were lots of people who don't think that Russell's time was over. I don't believe so. I think Russell, as far as what I can see, he's as fit as he has been in his last several years. So I am kind of satisfied with the team, and my only question surrounds.
All right. So you don't have Hetty in your team.
That is correct.
Is he the only person you would not have picked?
That is in this team. Yes. Right. No. Let me address Shamar.
Uh-huh.
I believe and I hope that the West Indian fans are not looking for some kind of a miracle performance, because I think they got carried away with this one test match, which was an exceptional performance. The guy has extreme talent. But white ball cricket is totally different to red ball cricket. He's not going to have 3 slips in a gully and people close up under the bat and that type of stuff. White ball cricket is a totally different cricket, and these guys are doing something in white. These batsmen, they're doing things that I would have never believed that is possible in terms of the physics of what they're doing, and their eyes and hand coordination, how quickly they're adjusting and doing stuff. So please, and he's only got, I don't think he's gotten any international T20. So please do not expect that what he did here in that test match is going to automatically translate here. But I agree with the pick, if nothing else, because of his talent, to give him an exposure. I'm not expecting him to play throughout the series unless he's, but just to be there to get that experience, because I think for the future, he's going to be some force to reckon with in T20, because he bowled with a hell of a good line and length. And that's what you want. But you've got to learn this T20 thing. It's not friendly to bowlers, and especially coming in for the first time. So I just to caution folks not to expect this guy to go and be a match winner like he was in the test match. But I had him in my team.
All right, good. So I got you there. I am satisfied with the team. I for the first time, I don't like the Desmond Haynes selection. I just don't. His philosophy of selection, I disagree with it. I think at all times you must put your best 11 in on the field. For me, always. And I don't think Desmond Haynes puts the best 11 on the field all the time. Stephen is saying, Bamfield is saying, in my opinion, West Indian cricket is dying. When we were dominating cricket, money was not a motivation. Our culture and pride as Black people were underlined. These guys are now being paid big money in India, and they're not playing. How is that improving cricket in the West Indies? If you people are not filling our grounds, something is really wrong. India will kill our cricket. Dr. Vince, I want you to speak to that, because it drives me crazy. Here you have Joseph, you have Myers, you have Rutherford, who have not. Well, Joseph played one game. Myers hasn't played any. Rutherford hasn't played any. Who plays one here and there. Etmire, Ruffman Powell came in belatedly in Rajasthan Royals team. But you have the cream of our cricketers in India not playing. And I don't understand how that is preparation for our World Cup. No, you hear England has already said that they want the England players home 28 days before the thing start. All right? I heard Sammy mention that they are talking to the franchises of trying to get our cricketers to come home. But more than that, You had Obed McCoy, who I think Joseph got the nod in front of him. But you had Obed McCoy sitting somewhere in St. Vincent while we are playing a 4-day tournament for the last 3 months, sitting there and playing no cricket. You got Fabian Allen sitting somewhere in Jamaica. Jamaica is doing badly. Fabian Allen is a cricketer. I don't believe in this T20 export thing. Why was he not playing 4-day cricket? He's not playing in India. He's sitting there in Jamaica. I want you to speak to the way in which we manage our cricketers in this era of what Bamfield is saying, playing for money. You know, you can't, because these little boys going after money. I think the old timers like us, we have to give up on that, right? But when I look at how Australia, India, England, they got more money. Olden said that they got money so they can pay these boys and so on. But I think every other team in the world seems to be managing and balancing this thing. But the West Indies, speak to it, please.
Well, and Bama hit the nail on the head there, which is what I've been saying also, you know, but then there's the other side to it. Because like Bama rightly said, in our time, when we played for pride. We never got any money. I remember when I played Shell Shield, we got $7 as our pocket money, and that was, you know, hell, we didn't care when it was, even if we didn't get any money, that was fine with us. Just to be on that tour and to play for your country, it's no longer the case. That, you know, like my good friend Clive Lloyd will always tell me that just to go, a lot of times to go get a signature from some of these guys, they will tell you go talk to their agents. But that's the attitude, and I believe, I hate to say it, but I believe that's in terms of this IPL. I've seen exactly what Bamfield said, that the IPL, of course, we as older folks and the traditionalists, we believe in the other version of the game, which is Test cricket, where we used to having, you know, the crowds coming, you know, border. You remember when a team comes down, especially if it's an Indian team, you know, people from the beach used to be there like 2 days in advance. The trees used to be packed with people. You can't get in. That was our Test cricket. But no, you can't find, you know, when you look at a Test cricket playing in the West Indies, there's nobody there. The game has become commercialized. And it was hard for me to even get it wrong, even looking at T20 cricket. And now I look at it more as an entertainment, because it doesn't have the same feel in terms of techniques and all that type of stuff for Test cricket. So I agree with Bamo that, and I've said this over and over, and Basil knows it because I've said it in several of our chats, that Test cricket will be over in a few years in the West Indies. Now in England and Australia and those places, apparently they're still getting people to come out. But in the West Indies, it will be over. Now in terms of the money, and it's not that I'm against these guys making money, because hell, they only have a short period of time for their career. So they've got to go out there. The West Indies doesn't have a league that they can make money like in England and Australia, for example, where they're professional cricketers. We don't have that kind of league in the West Indies. So I can understand that as the other side of the story, where they've got to go and make money as fast as they can, because these guys will be forgotten. As soon as their cricket is over, they'll be forgotten. So they've got to make as much money as possible. So that is the other side that I see in the Hetmeyers and those folks who have to, and they've got the opportunity, because every country now has some kind of a PL, and it's all T20. So the Test cricket in the West Indies, and I'm just like Bama, it's going to be dead in a short while, because it cannot sustain it if you're not getting fans coming to the game. But if you got a T20 game in Guyana or any part as you see, it's a carnival atmosphere. So it's entertainment now. That is what T20 is. And it's even the same Hetmeyer. The owner of Hetmeyer, never forget the owner of and I took note of that, and Basil can tell you, and I made a lot of statements about it. The owner, when they were renewing his contract, I think a few years ago, the guy called him an entertainer. He didn't call him a good cricketer while he was renewing his contract. He said he was an entertainer. And he is a living example as to exactly what Bam is saying, that IPL has spoiled our cricket, especially with Hetty. Hetty used to be a world-class batter, up in the order, number 3, 4. And now it's an insult to me anyway, to be this man has been relegated now to a finisher. Somebody who could play any shots, and he comes in at number 7, 8 to bat for 3 overs. That's not what the spirit of cricket is. That's not what we would like to see out of our best batsmen. But that's what the IPL has turned him into. So, but I agree with Bama, except that, like I said, on the other side, you've got to see this cricketer side where they have to make a living, and they've got to make it within that short window of time. Because when the cricket was over, those guys are not like you and I, Dr. Hines, which is what Bassett Butcher told me, by the way. He said, when I got into that automobile accident, he said, let me tell you something. He said, you see everybody who's going to be around you now, and, you feel a little bit of fame. When you're about 30, 35, you can't play anymore. They're looking for the next Vincent Adams. And you, without an education, you're going to be struggling. But if you get an education, you can keep that for life. So these guys who do not have that kind of go-to or fallback option, they've got to make this kind of money.
Point well taken. I am totally in agreement with you. Good evening to all of you who are joining us. It's our cricket edition of Politics 101. We're talking cricket, West Indies Cricket 101, and I see a lot of you have been sharing the link, and we have a lot of cricket enthusiasts there. If you have questions for us, please put the questions on here. Eventually, we are going to move to a call-in segment. But for now, please put your questions. I'll try to see if I can get to them. I've got to go back to the Etmire issue, because I agree. Etmire's problem is commitment, is consciousness. He's not conscious of his own importance to West Indian society, to Guyanese society. He has absolutely no clue on that. I always say that, if I had anything to do with West Indies cricket, they'll be going to school when as part of, I don't know if they do this as part of those camps, but they'll be reading Beyond the Boundary. They will be reading the cricket classics. They'll be studying cricket. So they're not just sportsmen. I remember in the 80s and 90s, seeing the youngsters in those times. You had the little these little players, and the guys had the little thing in their ears. And I remember asking a cricketer, what is it they'll be listening to? And I would see Logie and them boys with their earpiece and so on. And he said they're listening to David Rudder. They listen to a conscious Caribbean music, and I was blown away. But I don't think these youngsters understand the Guyanese and Caribbean society, and I think that's a flaw. But I go back. If commitment is a reason for leaving Hetty out, what about Russell? Is he committed? What about them, those who refuse Shea Hope and all of them, who refused to go in Australia the other day, saying that they prepared themselves for the T20 World Cup? I laugh when they leave out Myers, because he's one of them, he prepared for the T20 World Cup. Didn't take the opportunity to go to Australia. Now he's out. All right? So I'm saying, are we using the standard of commitment for Hetty, but giving the others, and I just named Russell, I named Shea Hope, even what's his name here, the former captain, Jason Holder. All of them, I think, have this problem of commitment. Are we just too harsh on Shimron, using that standard as to why he should not be in the team, but giving the others a pass?
And you No, that's an excellent point, and a lot of people have raised that argument there too. But I think you know, Hetty, you know, it's to him it's a common occurrence. You hear from these guys, well, we can't make a tour, and a lot of people for various reasons, and it might be a legitimate reason. But when you telling people that you can't miss, you're missing your flight,
Mhm.
and those are the kinds of things. And then you know you put on a lot of weight, you know, and then when you're not even wanting to go do like your fitness test, if the IPL calls and tell you to do something, you regardless you're doing it. But if the West Indies
Yeah.
wants you to do it, you know, it doesn't matter to you. So those are the kinds of things that, and and you know, I've gotten it from real inside, very close to, and this is not now, um, that you know, Hetty really didn't never had any interest. Well, I shouldn't say after the money started pouring in, and again, not this is not a criticism against him. That's his choice.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm not, that I don't like, if that is my choice, I would just flat out come out and tell the West Indies, you know something, I'm gonna play IPL and I'm gonna play, you know, this is where I'm gonna make my living. You know, I don't want to keep you chasing after me anymore. That would be my professional stance. Of course, I'm sitting on the outside. I don't know what goes on in the cricketing community there and at the board table. But so that is what I think people are looking at, is those simple things that people can relate to. Saying that you can't make a tour because of family matters and stuff, but then to say, well, I miss a flight, you know, and then not more than once. That's the kind people can relate to that. You're telling me that I'm going to be picked for the West Indies team, and you tell me that I'm going to miss a flight to go play for the West Indies, you know. So those are the kinds of things that I think that makes the difference. But again, like I said, I've said it in all my criticisms of Hetty. I think that if that's his choice to go play um, those PLs to make, you know, to get enough money so that when cricket is over, I totally agree with him, except that he needs to make it known to the West Indies and not let them believe that he's really interested when he's not. And like I said, it's killed his cricket. One of our most talented batsmen. I think the IPL has killed his cricket for him to be classified as a guy who goes in to bat for 3 overs or 2 or 3 overs. I mean, to me, that's an
No, it's
insult.
crazy. It's crazy.
That's an insult.
It's crazy. You know, I like this team. I share a lot of the views on Hetty. Hetty tires me. He tires me. But I'm partial to him. The one person who I think should have been in this squad, and that is not even near the squad, they didn't even send him to Nepal, is that young boy from Bobby's,
Yeah,
Kevin Sinclair.
I
I think Sinclair is the best all-round cricketer, all-round, and for me, all-round cricketer in the Caribbean. And he should be playing in all formats. Remember, he first played for the West Indies under Pollard as a one-day player, as a T20 player. Then they dropped him just like that. You didn't hear from him. Then they brought him in the one-day team. And now he can't even make a third-string team to Nepal. And I wonder if Desmond Haynes and Sammy are watching the same cricket that the rest of us are watching. No, that brings me to the question of Roston Chase. I would have, if you have to have a Roston Chase, I'm saying pound for pound, Sinclair is a better cricketer than Roston Chase. I think he's a tight off spinner. I think he is a better batsman and a better fielder. And I think he's a young man who's hungry. And so therefore, if I would have taken one person out of the team, it would be Sinclair for Chase. I guess my question is Roston Chase place in the team justified?
well, he's always been, been even in the Nepal series. He's always around. That he never does really well or really bad. So he's always that average player that is under consideration. Now, you brought up an interesting name, this Sinclair name. I was shocked. When he was not on that team to Nepal. As a matter of fact, I was so shocked that I thought, well, the only reason why he should not be there, even though it didn't make sense because he's an inexperienced player. As I said, well, maybe he's a certainty for the World Cup.
That's right.
And
that's what I thought.
That was my thinking. So because I could not believe that he has done well enough in recently for him to have been in that Nepal thing. So I thought maybe they're looking at these guys to see who else is going to fit, and this guy was one of the certainties. And I was totally shocked. So that's why, even Kevin, I had him, as a matter of fact, when I was putting my team together. But I had to remove him when I saw that I just get a feeling when I saw Chase, because I believe that was who he was gonna be competing with. When I saw what Chase was doing, and I said to myself, well, if they took Chase there and Chase performs well, he's gonna be in that team, because there's no reason why you would take him there. A player who's probably on his way out, you're gonna take him there just for a tour if you're not looking at him with the intention of playing him. So when I started seeing Chase performing, okay-ish, I knew right away that Sinclair Clark was done.
Yeah. I couldn't make sense of it. You notice you carry Casey Carty. Casey Carty is a good enough. I don't even think Casey Carty should be playing 50 overs cricket. He's a one-dimensional player. He's a good player, but he's one-dimensional. And as you say, these shorter versions of the game call for innovation. I don't think Carty is a kind of batsman that is innovative. And so when I see the carry Carty on a 2020 tour and not Sinclair, I want to know what is wrong with Desmond Haynes, what's going on in his head, Yeah. But anyhow, talking about Nepal, I mean, West Indies won in Nepal 3-2. To me, they lose the Nepal series. You should be winning that team that we have there. You should be winning 5-0. And if you don't win 5-0, to me, you have lost. Your view.
Oh, without question. When we look forward to the World Cup, especially, I thought we had a good enough team to even beat Nepal 5-0.
Yes.
And for us to lose that series, that was also a shocker to me. But the good thing is, at least all of our top name players are in this World Cup squad with lots of experience. So if we cannot at least pull off some credible performance here in this World Cup and make it make it up far up, I'm not saying for us to win, even though we you see, the thing about these T20, Dr. Hines, anything can happen. These shorter versions of the game, all it takes is one good day and some player,
one good over or one bad over.
And we've got the players who can make that happen on any good day. One player could do this. So, the stars have to line up for us to win it all. But I think we've got a good enough team with experience. Almost every one of these guys have played, throughout the world. They've played among us. They know all the players they're going to be playing against. So I'm hoping that helps us as a team. But you're right. In terms of this whole preparation, we probably the only recognized team out there right now that is not really having any kind of preparation. Look, even in the IPL, our players are hardly even playing. They're hardly even getting to play, except for the few stars. The same. Our Quick. I think he probably played one game.
Joseph won.
I think he played one game, but
none for
that's it.
47, and you know, one over went for 22 runs. You know, it wasn't a bad performance, but he has not played since.
Yeah. But
He has not played since.
yeah,
Rutherford has not played a game.
But at least we have it looks as if we've got some, you know, some lower ranked teams earlier on. So hopefully we
Papua
can
New
get through
Guinea
that.
and so on.
If we can, but hopefully we can get through that run, and by the time we get through that run, the team would be gelling and ready to go into, you know, into the next round.
Ready to go into the next round. You're listening to and watching West Indies Cricket 101, a Politics 101 edition, and we're talking about the West Indies cricket team that is going to play in the T20 World Cup, which is going to be staged next month in the United States and the Caribbean.
Let me make a quick. I
yes.
noticed Basil make a comment there and I said the same thing, Basil. I said that on top of his attitude and commitment, Hetty has not done anything in recent times, even in the IPL. So I think that's the comment Basil is making there, and I agree with him. So I did say that in my initial comment, that on top of the other stuff, he has not performed. I mean, if he was really performing, lighting up the IPL right now, I would have even want to overlook, you know, the commitment and stuff, because what it would have been telling me is that it looks now that he has changed his ways and he's come around now to performing, because he hadn't been performing the last, for a while now. So I would, if he was really lighting up this whole IPL on fire, like Sunil Orion, for example.
Oh Lord, yes, Sunil made 80 something today. Yeah,
that's right. You look at Sunil Orion, but he's not lighting up the IPL either. So it's really puzzling that somebody who was in and out of the team, you've got problems with his attitude, and on top of that, he's not performing. You put all three of those together. Where's the argument? None of those, would justify his quit. So to call him a finisher. What does he finish? Even as a finisher, which I resent that terminology and that categorization. But even as a finisher, what has he done in recent time to be such an outstanding finisher to be in that team? And especially, I'm a Mayers person, by the way. And of course, I had Mayers instead of him. And at least if I had Mayers, and even at the top of the order, because besides, I don't know who's going to open with Johnson, because I think he's, his place.
Well, it's going to be the Jamaican guy is going to open with Charles, and he is so injury prone.
But I would
I'm talking about King.
Yeah, King. But I like Mayers. I'm a Mayers. But the thing is, at least Mayers could even give you, because a lot of times in these T20, like I said, something could happen in one over, and if you want somebody to, let's say a bowler is not on his game, and you want somebody to bowl an extra over or two, Mayers could come in and give he's not a bad little season.
No, he swings the ball around.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
So I don't understand this pick of dropping Mayers at all. I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm putting Hetty in front of him, and then you're telling me that Hetty is going to be the finisher. I don't understand this.
Dr. Adams, we have a slight disagreement. Lawrence Romeo, thanks, my brother. I remember you from back in the days. Listen, I don't think it was a toss-up between Mayers and Etmai, and it should not be. I think it was between Mayers and somebody like a Roston Chase, because I think Mayers is going to give you more than Roston with the bat, and I think he moves that ball, and he's on the ball in T20 cricket. I don't know why the captain Powell doesn't use him more. I've seen Powell go to himself. I've seen him go to Rutherford instead of going to Myers. So I have Myers in my team, but not. I don't think it's a toss-up with Myers and Hetty. Look, anybody can open T20. In fact, for me, I think when they come down to the 11, I think Rutherford should batter the top with open with Johnson Charles. I would go with Rutherford at the top to do what we were asking Myers to do. I would put Rutherford to open at the top because I think in T20 cricket, I agree with you. This role playing of finisher,
I agree.
Nonsense. You put Rutherford at the top there, and he explored at the top there. In 30, 40 balls, he's got 100. And I don't think King could give you that. Right? So I have Myers in my team, but not at the expense of Hetty, you know. But anyhow,
and I can see, I can see that argument too. I can very well see that argument.
Yeah. No. You have Moti, you have Hussein, and of course Roston Chase off spin. I from what Desmond is saying, he's there mostly for his bowling. So we have 3 spinners for all intents and purposes, right? There is an argument that we don't need 2 left-armers. So we don't need Moti and Hussein. And Hussein seems to be first choice. So some people were talking about the boy from the Leeward Islands, Hayden Walsh.
I know Walsh.
What's your thoughts there?
It is a toss up with all of them. Okay, if you're gonna pick 3 spinners, pick your 3 best spinners. Whether even if there were 3 left arm spinner or 3 right arm spinner, if they're doing the job, it doesn't matter whether they're left arm or right arm or whatever it is. And Walsh, he also has not been even outstanding. I mean, he's in Nepal. These guys, if you're gonna go play against a team such as Nepal, and you cannot show up and be an outstanding player among those folks to show that you're ready, at least you can handle. If you can't handle Nepal, I cannot pick you in the team, and I think that was his opportunity to show that he could perform to that level and to probably compete or even get in front of a Moti, because Hussein to me definitely has to be in the team, with his experience. And Moti is, Moti hasn't shown that he's better than Hussein to me, in terms of keeping things tight and that type of stuff and the experience. But to me, it doesn't matter whether you're 2 left arm spinner or 2 right arm spinner. In the West Indies, we're gonna need spinners. I mean, I don't think you come to Guyana and those places, you're gonna need spinners. So I don't have any problems with. I don't think all 3 of them are gonna play at the same time. But
right. I'm trying to see where they'll fit Chase in.
Chase is gonna play. Trust me, and don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Chase is gonna bat up the order.
Yeah,
he's gonna bat up the order, and they're playing him. They're playing him because remember, up to I was kind of shocked at his performance in just a couple of CPLs ago. I think he made like the most runs or right to the top. Right. So he's gonna be. They're playing him more as he's a good kind of utility player. He's gonna bat up the order, especially if you notice they would not even put him in there. Let me say you lose 2 quick wickets or something. He's the kind of player who could come in.
But let me ask you this: if they're going to bat him up the order, are you going to play he and Shea Hope up the order together? Are we looking for trouble there?
I think both in the first. I think in the 4 set of games, both of them are going to play. I think in the initial 11, both I think both Hope and Chase, I think they both are going to play, because and it's a matter of seeing that those first few games, because remember this team has not played together and play against any team together to see what exactly. So I'm expecting I think they've got the 11. As a matter of fact, they indicated that they've got their 11 who are going to be playing, but they didn't tell us. But I'd be willing to bet you they're not going to bring people like Chase, Holder, Russell, and those folks to not be playing in that 11, especially in the first set of games. They're not going to do that. These guys are veterans. They're going to say, hey, we got to show them some respect, etc. If I'm going to bring some people that I want to sit on the bench, I'm going to bring the younger players. They're not going to bring these, professionals to sit on the bench. So I expect Chase, I expect Hope, and Holder, King to play.
Let me ask you this question, which this morning Basil was asked, and I was trying to tell Basil, give this answer. They named Alzari Joseph as the vice captain. Remember, Shea Hope was the vice captain in the preceding series. They named Shea Hope. And the question is, why name Alzari Joseph as the vice captain and not Shea Hope? And I think, and you can give me whether you agree with me or not. I think the reasoning that Shea Hope is not a sure pick, because I really don't see how Shea Hope and Chase is going to play together in the first 6 or 7. We're looking for trouble there, right? I think the reasoning is that Shea is not a sure pick in the 11. Alzari is more a sure pick because he's the leader of the fast bowling attack and so forth. And that may have been the reason that they gave the vice captaincy to Alzari rather than Shea Hope. Your thoughts?
Well, in that case, I would have, if you look at it that way, why not give it to Puran? Right? Because Puran is a sure pick.
Right.
So, but I can see your argument. But what was even more disappointing and embarrassing to me more than anything else, because these are the kind of things that I normally look for. When the question was asked, if you recall, do you recall that neither of those two guys sitting there, Sammy nor Haynes, even remember
that Shea Hope was the vice captain? That was so embarrassing.
I could not believe that. So you want to tell me, how the hell could they be picking a team and picking a vice captain, and neither of them know or even remember that Hope was the previous vice captain on that tour? I mean, that was more of a news story to me more than anything else. But of course, they got let off the hook because you can tell that the reporters did not want to embarrass it.
Right.
But it shows again the incompetence sometimes of these people that pick these teams and don't even know who these players are. But it's an interesting observation that you made in terms of the why the vice captaincy went to Joseph instead of Hope. I mean, that may very well be the case.
Yeah, well, we may be imposing our thoughts on them because they don't seem to have put any thought into who's the vice captain is.
Yes.
And we may be I may be imposing my thoughts on them, because if you can't remember you picked a man last week as the vice captain, it means that you haven't put any thought into who the vice captain is.
That's exactly right. How could you not remember who your deputy leader is?
Yeah, look, Basil and Lawrence, who I remember from the old days on that site run by Ryan, I'm trying to remember Ryan's last name. Basil is saying that Chase is picked to play the Marlon Samuels role. And Lawrence Romeo is saying, I'm thinking Hope is a closer replacement for Samuels, with Chase there in case added stability is needed.
I think both of them are correct. I think, you remember I said, if especially earlier on, Chase is going to bat up the order. And it's exactly for that reason, because we are sometimes. We use 3 or couple quick wickets, and you need somebody like him to stabilize the batting. So I believe that's what and Basil, which is the same thing that Samuel used to do, by the way, for the West Indies team. So I think both of them are basically saying the same thing.
Yeah. Ryan Narayan. Yes, Lawrence Ryan. How could I forget my friend name? Ryan Narayan used to be a journalist in Guyana. And in those days in the 1990s, he provided one of the few fora to discuss cricket. And I remember jostling with these guys. Like I said, I was coming as a cricket scholar rather than a
and to add, and the part with Samuel and Basil, I think Basil was hit the nail right in the head there, because in addition to stabilizing that batting, Samuel did the same thing. He came on and bowled his little thing, and that's exactly what Chase has been. Like I said, he hadn't been outstanding, or he hadn't been a fail. He's always been there in the reckoning, and he's gonna be playing in those, and he's gonna be batting up the order. Trust me.
The icon boss is saying there that Joseph, meaning Shamar Joseph, record in the shorter format of the game, he is not a frontline bowler. He's making a point. I remember when he played for Guyana in the Super 50, and he played a couple of games, and they belted him around the park. And so obviously they saw something in him that the rest of us didn't see at that time. And they're justified in his performances at the test level. But like I said, this, and like all of us are saying, this T20 format is a different kettle of fish. I hate to say that because I am not a T20 man. I have to deal with it because it's a reality. But if I could close my eyes and say, God, take away one format, I would say the T20 format. But don't say that to them cricketers who becoming millionaires and so on. Do you think Obed McCoy was hard done?
No, as a matter of fact, I hadn't even seen him in recent times.
Yes.
I hadn't seen anything much about him in recent times. So, I guess they, you hadn't heard anything much about him. He's not been around, the playing arena. So he is, just to give he has disappeared, unless I was missing something.
He's been there. He's been playing in some of the minor leagues, and that's the point I was making. He was sitting there in St. Vincent, not doing anything.
Yeah.
And we are playing first-class cricket, but because we have these players now as specialized T20 players, but he should have been out there.
No, he's also a good player, but but like this whole Shamar Joseph and what the guy who said something about him again, these selectors, and I will be able to guarantee you, their intention was not to they don't have it would be a bonus for them if Shamar shows up and be outstanding. That's not what they're expecting it. This here is to give him a shot. This guy is very talented. We've got 15 players. Let's expose him and even give him an early try to see how does he really have the talent for T20? We know that he has it for Test cricket with a different type of ball, with 3 sips and a gully and all this kind of stuff. But T20 is a different ball game. So they're saying he's got the talent. He bowls a good line and length. He's got the talent. Let's see how he would perform. They don't expect him to be a star in this series. It's to really check him out and give him a test. And I agree with that. It's to give him an opportunity, and he might turn out to be a superstar after this tournament, because the guy's very talented and he's fit and he appears to be hungry. But they're not expecting, and I'm cautioning the fans, because they believe that miracle, that outstanding performance in that test match, they think that's automatically be transferred over to here, and that's.
But I hope they're not thinking so. But our bowling, I think, is where we're the weakest. Our bowling, we struggle in the overs up front, the power play, and we struggle at the end. All right, the bowling struggles in both in the power play and at the end, and I think we are rated in the power play. I think second to last among the official teams, the top teams, and that has always, I think, been the problem. And so I can see them shopping around to find the right bowling combination. Lawrence is reminding us here that McCoy was in Nepal and he bowled that terrible over, giving 22 runs when the people needed 24 in the last 2 overs.
Oh, I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even realize he was in Nepal.
Yeah. He was in Nepal, and in the match that we lost, I think the first match that we lost, or is it don't know this last one. The people needed 24 runs in 2 overs. He bowled the 19th over, and they belt him around the park for 22 runs. Partly because I think the field was set for him to bowl short, but he kept pitching the ball up, and you wonder sometimes what these coaches. Well, a coach can't get in a play ahead. I mean, you can carry the cow to the water, you can't force them to drink. But if these guys are serious, and your captain gives you a certain feel, and then you're bowling, anyhow. I want to thank everyone for coming through tonight. And Basil, I'll get your number. Lawrence, if you can hit me up too, Stephen, because I would like to get you guys on the program to give your analysis and so on as we continue this program. We are doing it on Sunday night, so now we'll see how it goes if we can add another night. Last night we played some old videos. I did interviews with Wes Hall and Conrad Hunt in 1999, and I played those interviews last night. But Sunday night is really the night when we're going to be looking at contemporary cricket. Dr. Adams, before you go, let me ask you this question. Would you have made it in the T20?
Well, here, a lot of players, you can remember in Test cricket, you had a certain style, but all of these batsmen had to adjust. All of these batsmen, they're not really naturally playing the way that they're playing, that they used to play Test cricket. So you had to adjust. My style, I was, you would have it because I was more of an on the aggressive side. So, most of us toward that our natural instinct. But what I'm seeing these guys doing these days, I would have never believed that physics would allow them to do it. And the hand-eye coordination for a guy to be bowling at 90 miles an hour and stuff, and you running down the wicket and you connecting, or then you paddle sweeping, you're getting in and reverse sweeping a guy bowling at that pace, and I mean it just unbelievable. But hey, you know what? It's just like evolution.
You think you would have made it? You would have made the adjustment.
Yeah, I would. I think I did fairly well in the 40 overs version. When I played in Guyana, we used to play like a 40 and 45 over version.
Right.
So
right.
I would as a little kid, you want to be in the game, right? You want to get play. So you would have adjusted yourself to play with that kind of tempo, especially when the ball is new, you like go playing your shots.
Who's the fastest bowler you faced in your time?
I would have to say Phil. Oh, well, Phil Blair was very fast, but there was a guy, and I remember in 1968, that was in 1968 on the 19, and you remember I told you that Guyana played on the 19 team,
right?
But Barbados had a 21. And there's a guy from Barbados called Hallam Mosley.
Yes, I remember him.
And I remember because I was the batsman on form. I just made runs against Trinidad, and Hallam Mosley had got carried away. I think the Trinidad, some team before us just bowled them down 2-1 them or something, and he was knocking them all over the body. And the newspaper started saying, well, they're putting the headlines where Hallam Mosley was going to cut off my neck and all kinds of stuff. And poor me, when the game was started, And I never forgot because Keith was the captain, Keith Aaron, and Keith won the toss, and Keith came up to me and said, "What do you think we should do?" And this wicket was hard. I mean, it was concrete. I had, those Garfield Sobers boots that and Garfield Sobers boots peg used to be sharp. And when you stepped on that Barbados wicket, it's not the wicket of Barbados wicket of today. It's shining like a concrete. You're sliding. And when I looked at this wicket and I hear all these people talking about this young man, I told Keith, let us feel. and so they made 250 something or 60 something. And we had to come back the next day. Of course, the place was packed coming to see me and Alan Mosley. And I never forget the first delivery. This big, strong guy, he ran all the way from the side screen. And it looked like if it took a year for the first ball of the day, the second day. And of course, it's a bumper. And I got in and I hooked. This ball hit the top edge and fly for 6. Fly, just to show you, just the pace.
How quick he was.
And then the second delivery came right around, around my pad, and I flicked, and it went one bump behind backward the square. Of course, I go down and start
do your gardening,
patting the pitch and stuff. But that shot there, just my confidence, and then of course I know what was going. I know the crowd is getting, and then the third delivery, another bumper, and I got in, and I hooked. And it went forward a square. So if you're hooking, that was really like a pull. But if you're hooking a bumper and it going forward a square, that means you're picking it up early.
Yeah.
And I went on and I started putting a beating on this young man. But he was very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he and Philbert Blair, but Alan Mosley, and I heard when Alan went to England. And I think even Sobers had talked about him being the next West Hall or something. But when he went to England, I think he injured some part of it, and he cut down on his pace.
Oh.
But he played league cricket. He still ended up getting, I think, like 500 county wickets.
Yeah.
He got a whole lot of wickets, but he ended up just as a
cutting down his pace. Philbert Blair, of course, toured England with the West Indies team in 1969.
Yep. And he in the county games, he started carrying away the wickets, and then they start writing in the newspapers how he running up like a girl and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Then
both he and Rex Collymore were in that.
Changing him in the nets and messed him up.
Yeah.
But Philbert was fast and strong. I remember, in '69, that 69 was the year that he made his mark on that team to go to England. And we playing in Jamaica. And Morris Foster. Morris, I was, feeling a cover. You always got somebody around cover. So, and then, you would shine the ball and then go give it to the ball and stuff. So, Morris Foster leaning. Morris was an onside player, mainly an onside player.
Oh, yes.
And Morris on drive, Blairy. And I took the ball and I shined it. I said, Blairy, you allowing this man to take your eyes and pass. You see what the man just do you? The man on what? And Blairy had a way he used to be puffed. Blairy started puffing and Blairy hit this by a bumper. The bumper hit and did not drop until it hit the bottom of the side screen.
Hey, yeah, you talk about Morris Foster. They had some men who used to terrorize Guyana. Morris Foster, Peter Lashley,
Renford
Pinnock. You had a boy from Trinidad, D'Souza.
Richard D'Souza.
It's a terrorized Guyana.
Yeah.
Oh boy. It was so nice doing this, brothers and sisters, and the sisters especially, because like I said, the sisters are into the game now. The ladies won 7 games in Pakistan. And I think it's a good feeling because they're rebuilding the women's team now. Haley Matthews is head and shoulders above the others, but at least we won 7 games.
Yeah.
Clean sweep in the one days, lost one T20 that we should not have lost. Are you encouraged by what you saw there?
Oh, absolutely. I think sometimes when I look at some of these women's team, especially that Australian team, sometimes I believe some of these women could make some national teams. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, they might not be bowling fast and that stuff. But they're batting. You know, a lot of them are pretty good. So I am encouraged. And you mentioned a name there, Matthews. She's also an incredible cricketer for us. But I am encouraged, and I'm hoping that women's cricket, I be given the kind of interest that it also deserves, in the West Indies.
Yes. Here, Basil, one of my students, because I teach a module on cricket in one of my courses called Peoples and Cultures of the Caribbean, and I use Butcher as what I call the un-West Indian West Indian, and that he made a certain style of batsmanship part of the West Indian canon that people like Larry Gomes and Chandapal were later to come, because prior to that we were seen as Cavalier and so on and thing. And my students had to determine whether the 209 or 133 by Basil Butcher was a better innings. Look at the video. The majority of them thought 133 was better from their limited knowledge of the game. Are you familiar with those two innings, Vince?
Oh, absolutely. I think Basil might tell you. Basil will most likely tell you the 133 because it was at Lord's.
Yeah, my students, they love the 133. And these are American students who are not, steeped in cricket or so, but based on what I would have taught them about the theory and of batsmanship and so on, they felt the 133.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something about Basil. And some famous writer, can't remember who it was on Basil, I'm sure Basil says that Basil Butcher was the hardest West Indian batsman to get out. I can't remember if it was Richie Ben or whoever said that. And it so happened that I was fortunate and privileged to be playing with him when I played for Mackenzie.
Right,
and the two of us would be batting. And I remember, especially in my early part of my career. And of course, he was a front foot man. You better play on your front foot for him all the time. That was always your first move. So I would play on the front foot, and the ball would spin past, like a leg spin. You get beat. And then now I'd be worried now, and Basil would come down. And he would say, "Well played, youngster." And I wondered, what the heck does he mean, well played? And the ball had beaten me all over. He said, no. He said, if you did not play, the line that you played there, it would have hit the edge of your bat. So he said, keep playing it the same way. But just to show you that the normal batsman would have been worried, he come down, he said, no, you missed it because you played correctly. So, you missed it because you played. If you had played, a different line, you would have been out. But that was his attitude, and of course he never gave away his wicket.
Right.
And the worst thing you can do, you playing on his team, you give away his wicket, is the worst thing you can do. And even with bowlers, the one term that I learned from him as a bowler is, all I want is every delivery, line and length. He tell and make the batsman play. He would tell his bowlers every single delivery, make him play. And the reason is, a batsman is going to make a mistake. As long as you keep it around that off stump, like one or two stumps wide, that batsman is going to have to be thinking, should I play or play not? Make him play. And so he was a very, in terms of knowing the game, he knew the game as well as anybody. And I learned so much from him. He knew the game as well as anybody that I've ever played with.
My favorite Basil Butcher story is that Basil once took 5 wickets against Trinidad or something like that. And we got an ignorant by hitting Buxton named Mantle. Mantle is the type of guy you bowl to you all the time, he out 3 times, and you know, he take a big and strong, and what we call ignorant. You out 3 times and he still make up bat again, and then when he done bat, he take the bat and the ball and go away. But he hear Basil Butcher take 5 wickets against Trinidad. And he decided he's going to become a spinner. And his name is going to be Basil Butcher. You couldn't tell him that Basil Butcher is really a batsman. Butcher, the best spinner. He take 5.
but let me tell you another story. But you used to get a lot of wickets in Case Cup, you know.
Yeah, I know that.
especially against DCC. Every time we played DCC, Butch used to pick up 4 or 5 wickets against DCC. So when I came to town to go to UG, so of course I'm now playing for DCC. So our first game against Mackenzie, Butcher with the leg spin, and I danced. And when I started knocking Butcher, and I think that was the Landscape Street. Right? As soon as he turned, because I picking the googlies and everything, and I climbing it, here he come down the wicket. He said, "You could only do this because this is a small ground." I bust 100. I think it's 130 or something in Mackenzie. Yeah. Then there couldn't be DCC after I started playing for DCC. Basil, like spin googly, they walked them over against DCC.
Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight, keeping my company on West Indies Cricket 101. Please, of course, share the links, like our pages. We have our YouTube channel, West Indies Cricket 101. Please like, follow that channel. And we are Leighton Charles is there talking about some Renford Pinnock, Eastern McMorris and Jamaica Peter last.
Yeah.
They were shell shield batsmen. Mega batsmen, we would say bullies.
McMorris and Peter Lashley and
Peter Lashley, last some double century one guy.
That's right. That's what I was about to say. When them boys make 100, they're satisfied. They go for 2.
And when you get them cheap Real Branca coming down the line, and later on I would learn that Branca was rated in Barbados more as a spinner than a batsman, but he used to make runs against me. Wonderful program tonight, and we're going to be back next week Sunday. I'd like to thank all of you for making it possible, and my brother Vince. You're not gonna see me twice per week.
Definitely.
You got to see me Friday night with the politics.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
All right. Thank you. So I'll see you next week. But before that, I'll see you on Friday. I would like to thank you all.
I'll send you Basil.
And send me Basil digits. Right. So yeah. I will. And Romeo and Bamfield. I also want.
Yeah, we gotta get Bama. I gotta get Bama on, man.
Get Bama digits. You all can catch me on what do you call that thing on Facebook, the Messenger, and hit me up there, and so that we can have you guys come on. Thank you all so much. And next week, same time, same place.
Yep.
Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. I tell you now, here comes the West Indies. Here comes the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here